this meeting. Okay, so welcome to Clay and Conversations at the Clay Studio. I'm just going to repeat what I said since I hit the record button. We're being joined by Cesar Viveros and Chase Kahwinhut Earles to talk about the future of clay and their work in our current exhibition. We're very excited to have that conversation. We would like to recognize that the Clay Studio stands on the indigenous territory known as Lenapehoking, the traditional homelands of the Lenape people. We would like to take a moment to reflect on the role of the Lenape as the past, present, and future stewards of the land, and the role of all of us to join in their tradition of respect and caring for the land and each other. So thanks everyone for taking a moment to think about that. I can turn the transcriptions on. You all are welcome to do the same. There we go. And you should be able to turn it on your end now. We hope that you will also join us on December 7th. We're going to have our symposium to celebrate the future of clay. We will have lots of the artists here in person, including Chase, who's going to come all the way from Oklahoma to be in person in Philadelphia. It'll be a really great day. All the artists are going to have a little bit longer to kind of talk specifically about their work in the show. All the curators will be able to participate and talk about their ideas as well. And then, of course, there's going to be lots of time to break bread together, have conversations, both casually, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of the day so that we can all talk together about everyone's ideas about the future of clay. We are going to get started now. And first I'm going to share very short bios of our two guests because really they're going to talk about their own backgrounds. But Cesar Viveros is an artist born in Veracruz, Mexico, with more than 25 years of experience creating public art in the United States and Mexico. He has been collaborating with the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program since 2000. His public work is inspired by the communities he has worked with. And Cesar visually interprets their particular ideology, primarily focusing on documentary work that helps him visually translate these individual stories to be exposed to a broader audience. Cesar has also worked with lots of other organizations all across the city, including the University of Pennsylvania. He's won many awards, including the prestigious Pew Fellowship, and is very active in the artistic life of Philadelphia with performances, installations, exhibitions, murals, workshops, and more all the time. And I heard you say that there is an award, a new award next year. So congratulations in advance. And then we are also welcoming Chase Kahwinhut Earles, who was born and still lives and works in Oklahoma. He pursued art in college, but did not choose clay as his medium until years later. And we'll hear about that in a few minutes. Chase has been in numerous exhibitions, has worked in many museum collections around the United States. He has won dozens of awards and has taught at prestigious institutions all around the United States and much more, which we will hear about soon. I have another. Oh, Trinity, thank you so much. Trinity, my colleague, has popped into the chat the RSVP for the symposium. If you want to join us on December 7th, I know this is very important. There's free breakfast and lunch. And it's from the mosque down the street, and you can either have falafel or chicken shawarma. So go to the RSVP and pick which one you want right now. And if you're interested in helping keep programs like this one free, please go to the other link that Trinity has shared with you to make a donation. Thanks, Trinity. Okay. I am going to start with Chase and ask you the question. How and why did you make the brave decision to make your life in art? And I was hoping you would answer that question, and then we'll come back and look at your slides after Cesar answers the same question.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was really long affair, so I'll keep it short. I was an artist, very young, but it was all paintings and drawings. But I never really found a voice or a statement, to make. So it was just making art, I guess. but I ended up going to college for it, the Savannah College of Art and Design. I did painting and drawing there, but I eventually went into 3D modeling, computer animation for motion pictures and stuff. But then again, I didn't end up liking that either. Uh, None of it really felt like an artistic output. Really, none of it felt like it had a meaning to me. I
Mm.
think that's the biggest thing. It really didn't have any purpose or meaning behind it. It was just, art, I guess, for the sake of art or whatever. Learning the trades, but I learned a little bit about, the art world and stuff. So I mean, it wasn't years later, in my early 30s, I think, yeah, that I went with the family on vacation to the Southwest and kind of rekindled my love of Southwestern pottery, native Pueblo pottery. And I think that kind of sparked something in me. I had been in a job for 20 years of programming for the web. It was all very logistical stuff and not very creative, no output. And I grew up traveling to the Southwest my whole life, so I had an appreciation for native art young. And so I think that also, so two things happened. One was I needed to make a connection to my tribe, to my culture and my people. And then secondly, I did a creative output. It was draining me. It was weighing on me, I guess. Something was missing for sure. And so the two came together, beautifully in one solution when I found out that, you know, I didn't want to, I wanted to make pottery, but I didn't want to make Pueblo pottery. Obviously, that's cultural appropriation. And so I looked into my own tribe, not knowing from the previous 30 years of my life that our tribe, the Caddos, had a gigantic pottery tradition. So I looked into it to see if we had pottery, and lo and behold, it was a huge legacy of pottery that hardly anyone knew about. So that just became my whole purpose in life was like, okay, I'm going to revive this. I'm going to help revive it. This is what I'm going to do with my life. Creative output, and doing that reconnected me to my tribe, my culture, the history of our people, and by extension, even helped my family reconnect to the tribe and everything. So,
Mm.
and then I was having my daughter, at the same exact time, was being born. So it was kind of like this could be her future as well. It all kind of came together all at the same time. And so it was just a light bulb. And I had only very briefly messed with ceramics in high school. We're talking just some clay that they handed me, and I made a little thing and threw it in the kiln. I didn't learn a whole lot. So I really dove in and just learned everything myself. Started with commercial clay, and then I decided it was more important for me to reconnect our tribe all the way back to where it had left off. So I discovered, kind of helped rediscover traditional methods of digging clay and firing it in a bonfire and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how I got started. I mean, the world had kind of opened up. My life completely changed,
Mm.
from a 60-hour a week programmer. And then eventually it was like I had built up enough network and time and sales and reputation to be able to leave that work and do art full time, which was was a scary nightmare. Going from a really well-paying job to a not so well-paying job. The family was very gracious in letting me do that, but it blew up after that, and so it's definitely been worth it. It's been a journey, but it's been amazing, and I didn't know how much historical contribution this work would be when I started. I just kind of felt like it was important, but it's shown me that it's more important than I thought. So it's been pretty amazing.
Mm. There's so many things in your retelling there that I would like to dig into. One of them is just the idea that you you said you traveled a lot to the Southwest and you were like aware of Native art. And is that because your parents must have put an importance on that? And then can you talk a
Yeah,
little bit about your
yeah. My parents. My father especially felt it was really important to, get out of the tiny bubble that you live in, your state or your city or your everything, political, whatever, social. And so we would travel every single year, but most of the time we would go to New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and oh, he's who I got my artistic talent from, and so he would take us to art galleries and stuff like that, and or just shops, and even they had native art in it, and I really fell in love with it. I saw it so much, and I knew I was Native American. Um, we could talk 2, 3, 4 hours about growing up native, but being disconnected from your tribe because of, assimilation and allotment and all that kind of stuff. So they had done a number on my family, and so it was kind of like I saw it and recognized it, and I wanted to get back to it. I think, that just stayed in me, and I saw how some of those tribes, it's different from all tribes, but for some of those tribes, they made their living doing it, and they still do. And so it was something that you could actually do. I mean, it wasn't just, something you could do on the side. But and then I saw them how they carried their culture forward and everything doing it, and it's just kind of like, well, I didn't know that was something that I could do until much later. And creating the art as a native, I quickly learned all the whole entire world about cultural appropriation, cultural identity, and everything. And I think that is what kind of cemented in me my mission as an artist is it's really important to me to be very sensitive and hold sacred our cultural identity as unique and different from all other tribes and all other cultures, and
Mm.
to show what is great about it. And so that shows through in my work. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also there's the idea that, you understood from an early age that you could do art as a career. I mean, it wasn't the kind of art that you're doing now, but that's another gift that is tied into that idea of what, like the question I asked has the word brave in it, because I think it was brave of you to even do that when you thought it was a creative pursuit that maybe had more job possibilities as, as a younger person, that you were starting off in that way. But then it was, like you said, it was very brave that you made that change later in life when you were so inspired and just like followed your heart. So
Yeah.
I like to call out that brave part. Important.
Thanks. It took some building up. I mean, I certainly put some money back. Is I had some safety nets and tested the waters, but it was still a life change, 100%. So
Yeah.
it was scary. I felt like I had enough support from people. It really came down to the people that I knew,
Yeah.
the network of archaeologists, anthropologists, curators, galleries, and stuff like that I had built up doing while I worked full time. So I mean, I did that 10 years while I had a 60-hour job, um, for 10 years before I could take the leap. So it wasn't any quick thing, but it was still scary. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just financial. Uh it's putting your heart out where people can see it, and
yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't realize that part until later when people started saying things. Yeah, you have to kind of wear your everything on your sleeve as an artist.
yeah, it's absolutely true. Okay, I am in the embarrassing position of realizing that I have to go upstairs and get my power cord. So, Cesar, just 2 seconds. You're next. I'll be right back.
Do, 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 do.
So it's like going to commercials.
Yeah, yeah. Commercial break.
Audience, don't go away. You can go to prepare your coffee or whatever.
Yeah, got the bathroom.
Get some snack and come back.
Oh my.
You have such a fascinating story. You know what surprised me? People's life can run parallel, like so many similarities and an artist's story. I love that. It's like it's always the
It's true.
sensitivity, like way
It's, tr-
yeah.
it's so true. I
Do
think
you
there's
remember?
always a struggle for an artist,
Oh,
no matter what. No matter what.
all of our life. Do you remember like your earlier piece, like your earlier clay piece?
Like when I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
But do you remember what kind of art it was?
um, I mean, I was just making little pots and little sculptures of animals, little bitty pots, little sculptures of animals. Some
That's
of them
what
blew up, and like
that's
some of
what
the first
Cesar
stuff
was
in high
making.
school. Yeah, I was learning. It only lasted, I think, my junior and senior year of high school, and then that was it. So
Jennifer,
I didn't know I was ever going to touch it again.
Yeah, but that's I Cesar's probably gonna say that's little animals. That's what he was making too. All
all
right, so
right.
now sorry about the cord thing. I'm back. Thanks, Chase. And now
Yes.
Cesar, can you answer the question, how and why did you make the brave decision to make your life in art?
Right. So first of all, I have to say that I was doing art at early age, and when I was on middle school and then in high school, I was able to provide some money for myself making signage. I a partner and a friend and I from the school, we kind of like advertised ourselves to do signage because we find out that if we make like larger images and we do art, they will hire us to do the name of the store or whatever. So it was a good income for having nothing. It was for a few years. Nevertheless, always painting and drawing and some little stuff on clay. But I didn't took the decision to go for the arts. I actually, when I finished high school, I decided to. I took like a little. But at the same time, I love snorkeling, going under the water. I live on the Veracruz is a city port, and the high school where I was, it was focused on anything related with the sea, with the water, with the river. So my thing was aquacultura, aquaculture, like anything related to like kind of biology, and that's why I spent so much time on the water. It was so lovely, and that kind of made me think to go for commercial diving. So I learned how to a few things, and then I just moved myself to the Gulf of Mexico, which is like the huge rig platforms, and people
Mm,
from all over comes to work there and make money. And so I tried myself there, and I got a job some like welding assistants, and then a few months after, I was already a diver assistant. So my job was rigging under the water, bringing tools under the water, and doing some jobs under the water. Like I'm small, usually divers are huge and all muscle, and so I was like every day exercising and making the muscle. It's very physical. I love it. The only thing that I started hating is the fact that you have to be away on the ocean sometimes for months. And I felt that that's when I realized that I wasn't made for that because I miss so much everything, the human connection and every like whatever experience you have every day. So I that's when I thought that I should like go back to arts. And I guess this sign was that a person, an American diver from Texas said, also that's another story. Right where I was on the ocean, on the free time that we have when there is like a storm, when there is like bad weather, you don't work, you just do like maintenance. So I started painting all the walls on the like the metal walls of every single station on the barge, murals practically like huge submarine systems, sirens, tritons, anything. And people start commissioning me to do t-shirts with oil paint, like the commercial oil paint. So I was like making money there, and then someone say, "Why don't you like make me a portrait of my daughter and my horse?" And people start asking, American, especially American, paying in dollars. I'm like, so every time I go back home and I bring a bunch of supplies and stuff, and I start like selling those. So it's like, wow, it's like, and then one guy from Texas, he have a silk screen company, and he said, if you ever come to the States, um, Cesar, I can give you a job. And I'm like, wow, it sounds like so easy, right? So I was working for a couple more years, and that's when I decided to come to the States, just because all the time I say to some of my friends who have family in Philadelphia, like, if you ever go back and, you can make it there. And so they invite me one day, from one day to the next one. He's like, do you want to come? And I'm like, sure. Like, when do you guys go? And they say, like, after tomorrow. I'm like, okay. I have to say goodbye to my family and go. The thing is, like, I lost contact of this person, so I never found his company or whatever. So I didn't know anybody in Philadelphia, and I was just doing my first job was washing dishes. That's the first job I was able to find, and landscaping, putting wax on floor. So really, like really hard jobs, working like 12, 14 hours a day. So little money, people exploit you as so bad. And then I start looking at the murals, working the murals, and like, I can do this. And then I find out there was a program. It's like, I was so like surprised. Like I can do this. I used to do this on like really. And I was so lucky that in the year, what was it, 1997, that's when I met Meg Saligman, painting the largest, or the most prominent mural in the city of Philadelphia. And I offered myself as a volunteer. She got me, and from there, I was there like couple of years working with her, and then Jane Golden from the Philadelphia Mural Pro offered me the, like I was like a freelance mural. So that's when I decided to like just drop everything and say I'm gonna start like just doing art. And I was lucky that I guess somehow the style, or maybe the hard work also reflects some of the beauty of the media. And I think that's what makes me like to be on this path. And from there, I kind of like have a parallel life. I was painting murals, telling other people's stories, talking about the community. I think I was a good listener, and then that's how I started painting. But then also have a parallel life. I was doing altars, Day of the Dead. I started taking those opportunities to bring with me and show my culture, to what we bring as immigrants to this country. And I think that we believe that we also contribute to the history of the foundation of this country. And it was a reality. I started like getting invitations to do things in the museum, the art museum, like couple installations and performances, and also the other places. And pretty much it.
Mm. Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah, then and like you said, like as if it was so easy, but it was hard work, and you showed how much you had to offer to the community. And now, like, yeah, we go around the city, and I'm like, well, that one's by Cesar, that one's by Cesar. Every time I drive to work, I pass by one of your murals. So it's you brought a lot of joy to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it was, I mean, that was again brave. Like you came to the United States because you with this idea that there was like art was a possibility, but you didn't know, and it wasn't like handed to you when you got here. You had to really work for it. So it's amazing. And then I'm interested too for you to talk a little bit about your first experiences with clay. Like Chase was talking about small little images of animals, and can you talk a little bit about your grandmother's farmland?
Yeah, every summer my parents drop me and my brothers to my grandfather's house. They live on the ranch, like very isolated for acres and acres of land. They didn't have electricity or running water, so at every summer, also my uncles drop all my cousins. So we end up being like probably like 20 cousins of the same age on my grandparents' house. So they make us work. They make us like grind the corn to do the tortillas for everybody to eat, and carry the water, go to the sugar cane little plantation they have to cut. So it was a lot of labor, but everything was for us, for me at least, was so beautiful. It's like no, they were vacation. I mean, kind of hard labor too, but it was so beautiful, like nature all over. Um, and then I heard the story of because we eat on they cook on a thing called fogon, which is like a structure with soil, and then on the top they put the wood and three stones to set up a griddle, and then something is comal made out of clay, and they cook the tortillas there. So then I heard that most of the stuff there in the house, it was made by my grandmother. I'm like, that's where I started hearing the stories. And that then I was so little, like, then it's like when she goes out to the field and she started burning things. And okay, so I realized that's where she was burning her own things. So talking about patriarcado, the story goes like one day, she brought her one of the pieces that she had for cooking, and my grandfather told her that he wasn't gonna buy her anymore. was kind of mean in a sense. So she, okay, so I would do it myself. So she started doing. That's why everything in the house made out of clay was made by her, and I think that struggled my mind. And then I kind of understand why back on the city of Veracruz, where my parents, there is clay all over. The substrate, the soil is clay all over. So when you dig something like to bury your trash or whatever, there is clay. And I think it was natural that my brothers and I like kind of like play with the clay, and especially my older brother, I saw like the beautiful things that he create like in an instant, and like I was so motivated and started doing my own thing. At some point, the other kids they trade their toys for the things that we have because there was no way that they could have this on their own because they could buy whatever but not this, and so it was good that we could have some of that too. So in a way that's my earliest memories with clay. It anything. I remember this particular eagle that I create, and I wanted to paint it. I want to add color, but at like 5 years old, it's like I was so naive that I thought I just like I started scratching the brick because of the red, and I put it on the body, and then there was lime for construction. I took the lime and I put it on the head, and then I also like thought that I could get the green from the grass. So I started smudging the grass, and it was just brown, ugly
Oh
color,
no.
no green at all. But in the mind of a kid, but that thing, it gave me so much pleasure. I cannot even explain it. That is stuck on my mind forever. And every time I hesitate or doubt about myself as an artist, I just have to think about that memory. It comes and gets me strong again. And I'm like, I can do anything, anything that I really want to do, whatever is on my mind, everything is possible. That always stuck on my mind. I think that was my motivation. When I do murals, I start like doing extensions on the roof. I start doing high relief. I start like encrusting some sort of like sculptures on the. So try to do whatever I feel, whatever I think that is possible to do, and I just put it like one pattern is always working directly with the materials. I just love the fact when I'm like, working the materials, like personally, I try to do most of the thing by myself. It gives me like so much confidence. I like that's where clay enters. It's the fact that I'm directly with with the soil, with the dirt, making things out of that. It's kind of like this universal language that you connect with the air, and then it comes bring back the spirituality. And I think some of the work that you will show reflects a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I hope that I think it's obvious already that the connections between your two stories and work, and, it's not the same story, but the fact that you both, engaged with painting and what we call flat art sometimes. And then, clay became somewhat more of like a spiritual connection and definitely a connection to your cultures and as a way to reconnect. And when we see Cesar's work, we'll see that it's kind of parallel to Chase's in that way. And something that I would love to take all the credit for as a curator is like matching people and talking about how things connect. But it often is really exciting that after things come together, like our things are grouped, then we start to see even more connections. So for instance, you two are on the Clay and Conversations today together, mostly because of schedules. But it turns out that it's like such a lovely parallel conversation to have. So I am going to share my screen so that we can have the next part of the conversation. Let's see. Okay. How does that look? Does everyone see the big screen? Okay. So first I'll just show a few images of the gallery since not everybody on the call has probably seen it in person, but I also want to make sure that I thank all of my colleagues. This exhibitions would never happen. There is a wonderful team of people at the Clay Studio that works on these, including Emily Wallace, our graphic designer, communications designer, who she designed the title wall and the graphic treatment for the exhibition. She just finished designing the book, which is very exciting. We are gonna have the book available on the day of the symposium. So hopefully everyone will be able to, if you can't come to the symposium, you can buy the book and then read all the great essays. So other people to thank, Trinity Dubois, who's our exhibitions coordinator, is amazing and a great team member partner who we work closely together to make sure everything gets organized. We also have, I mean, lots of other people, development department, Tracy and Chase. Charity is always helping, making sure everybody gets paid on time. And of course, when we talk about Cesar's work, we'll talk about Ken Beidler's help as Cesar was the guest artist this summer. Lots of other people. And then, of course, our three co-curators. So Anya Montiel, who worked directly with Chase, Angelique Viscarando Laboy, and Zinzi Harley were my co-curators for the show. So just wanted to make sure I got all the thank yous in there before we kept going. But here's the beautiful work in the gallery. And these photos are by Alexander Mansour. It's another one of our great kind of ancillary team members. We're very excited about the photos that he took. So that's a little walk around the gallery. And then we have Chase's images. So Chase, you want to talk us through some of these and just let me know whenever you want me to change the slide.
Okay, yeah, sure. So as I'd mentioned, I decided it was really important to like reconnect the ancient methods to the way their tribe used to make pottery, and so which is it's a rare thing nowadays. I realized within native pottery, a lot are moving towards commercial clays, which is natural in evolution of things, but that means the old ways are getting lost, and so it was quite a journey trying to reestablish, how we would find our clay, dig at what type of clay we'd be using for southeastern tribes, Mississippian area, and then how to actually build pottery with that clay because it is nothing like what you would get buy at the store. It's just completely different.
Did you
So
did you
go
have
ahead.
someone who you could turn to help figure this out? And is
It
this
was a
near where
lot
you
of
live
different
now?
it was a lot of different sources. So the whole entire process that I was trying to rediscover was a huge like collaborative between it was really me just doing a lot of obsessively hard work of trial and error, but it was assisted by talking to archaeologists of our region, Caddo homeland area, anthropologists, other natives that did traditional pottery, and but of different cultures and regions, and then talking to some elders, and then there is, I'm sorry, Jerry Redcorn is the Caddo that kind of revived our pottery. Um, she hadn't quite, like fleshed out all of the really ancient ways we did things. I don't think she had the mission of reviving the pottery, and that was big enough. And so I feel like, I took it upon myself then to kind of continue where she had left off and um, discover this. But it was mostly a lot of trial and error. But then I would verify what I did, my results, against our archaeological record of our pottery and with archaeologists. And then after I felt like I'd really kind of figured it out for as much as possible,
Mm.
then I found like archives in the University of Oklahoma of some caddos talking uh, in our language about how to make clay, and they were translated and stuff. So, and then what I found kind of verified and confirmed what I figured out. So,
And you thought, why
uh,
didn't I find this when I
yeah,
started?
I mean, there's so much out there, you just don't know what's out there, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was buried, in the archives because again, our tribe's just so not well known and underrepresented. So it was just, in there somewhere. Someone found it. Uh, but and it's cool because the people that had done the recordings of the language are actually related to me. So that was in ancient way. It's like, hundreds of years back.
Yeah.
But so that was kind of it. So this is me going out along the rivers and finding clay and digging it and then taking it home and sifting it. And so that's me. Well, that was me in on the bucket, sifting out the crushed up clay, getting the rocks and the roots and all that kind of fun stuff out of the clay. It's quite a process. It's actually harder work to make the clay than it is actually make the pots. It takes months, just because of the aging process and stuff. So after I do all this, I kind of reamalgamate the clay with water and let it age so that it gains plasticity because
Mm.
it's an extremely lean clay.
Mhm.
It's mostly what I technically call junk and less clay.
Mm.
But that's what also helps it live through the bonfires and stuff that I
Mm.
do.
Mhm.
Um, so in the next slide, it was me showing how to build with this clay, which it took a lot of practice because it's a very, like I said, lean clay, so it really just wants to collapse. It doesn't have a lot of plasticity,
Mhm.
and so you have to slowly build it up. You kind of build up a one coil, and you let it dry, and then you build up another coil, and you let it dry, and so that it can support the weight.
Mm.
Also, Caddo pottery is extremely thin, so it's different. From actually almost all the tribes that I've seen in ancestral work. Um, Caddo pottery can be somewhere around 1, 2 millimeters thin sometimes,
Oh my gosh.
which is really hard for me to achieve. So I mean, some of my stuff's still 3 millimeters thin, but so that also
So from
adds to the
personal
process.
experience picking it up, it's still very thin.
Yes, yes, yeah. You can tell when you pick it up. It scares you because it's so light, and and that was my experience with being able to see some of our ancestral pottery. It was just like, what is this made out of? It's like air, and it's just the thinness of the pot, and it's the clay too, because it has lots of voids in it and lots of inclusions and all kinds of stuff like that, junk. And so it takes a while to build a pot because you have to just build it up over time. Like a pot this big that I'm building here, it would take probably about 3 or 4 hours just to get it to that size because you have to let it dry in between stages.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's just built up with coil method. They're all hand built and just shaped while wet, and then I let them dry, and then I sand them and burnish them. And anyway, that's kind of the quick version of the process.
Yeah. And then you sometimes include mussel shells.
Yeah, with the making of the clay, one of the traditional grogs or temper, one of the traditional tempers that our tribes would use in the Mississippian and southeastern area was mussel shell. So it kind of started more in Florida first, and it worked its way over to the Caddo homeland area, and that's kind of where it stopped. But yeah, I go along the rivers and lakes and hand collect freshwater mussel shell and crush that up and put it in the clay, and that acts as a really natural temper. It has a lot of um, you gain a lot from using it, but there's also a lot of limitations from using. So it's a pretty tricky material. You can't get it over a certain temperature before it
Mm.
becomes a destructive material. So and your pots fall apart. So it's kind of tricky,
Mm.
especially when you're firing them this way without any kiln or anything. So it's about learning how to control the temperature of the fire and the length of firing and stuff like that. So this is how I fire the traditional pieces. Now, don't get me wrong, like I do very contemporary, very modern, and futuristic pottery and sculpture as well, using commercial clay and kilns. But this is where I started, and so this is me, warming up a pot and then firing it in the bonfire pit fire. There's really no pit. There's just no real good word for open ground wood fire, and it's you know. But they're fired green. They're not pre-fired or anything. They're just warmed up around the fire and thrown in there.
Mm.
And they don't take very long to fire because the clay melts at a really low temperature. This clay that I dig on the rivers. So yeah, really these fires only get to about 1200 degrees
Mm.
Fahrenheit, and it only stays in there for 10, 20 minutes for little pots, and they're done, and they hold water. And
Wow.
it's the clay. It's the clay is so different.
Well, that's really
And I
interesting.
learned the hard way. If you buy clay at the store and you make a pot and you take it and do this with it green, it just explodes. It explodes.
Sorry.
I blew up so many pots
Oh
figuring that
no.
out. So
So it's
anyway,
really the chemical makeup of it.
yeah.
Two questions spring to mind. One is, do you have a good recipe for the mussels? Because are you eating them after you pick them?
No. And actually,
You don't
sorry.
like mussels?
I grew up in landlocked Oklahoma, right? So we go around the lakes and rivers and pick up these mussel shells, which are usually empty because of the raccoons and everything.
Oh,
And
okay.
if we find one that has some rotted look in it, it's kind of
No. Well,
smelly. But it's
all
a
right.
really nasty, rivery, funky lake and river smell, so we don't really eat the freshwater.
Got it.
I'm
Okay. I
sure
like
there
it.
are people that love it, but
Well, I imagine that, a few hundred years ago when people were
oh, for sure.
using them
Oh,
there
yes,
wasn't, they
they
weren't
definitely.
wasting them.
Oh,
So
for sure. Yeah.
anyway, okay. Well,
Yes.
so
Yes,
now we
they
know
didn't
how you feel
have
about eating
McDonald's and
mussels.
stuff,
Go back to,
So, yeah.
okay.
No, they were definitely eaten in the past, but the stuff that I find is already dead and empty
Got
along the
it.
shores, so it's easier to process for sure. I find ones that are still alive and it's just tossed
Just
back
put it
into
back
the
in.
water. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so now you can talk a little specifically about the pieces. This is how they're displayed in the gallery.
Yes.
Um, do you
So
want
we have one of the things about cattle pottery is the variety of pottery shapes. I mean, it's I talked to an archaeologist once about how many different varieties of pottery have been found, and she said it's literally thousands.
to?
And that means typologies. So each typology of Caddo pottery is labeled. Like there's some called Hodges. They're all very archaeological academic terms. Highly complicated, Nashatish engraved, etc. And it goes on and on.
Mm,
And there's thousands. So there was quite a prodigious like experimentation and development of pottery styles within our tribe that makes it one of the biggest pottery traditions in this country, to be really
mm,
honest.
mm,
Not many people know much about cattle pottery. If there's literally somewhere around 60,000 cattle pots in all of the museums in this country. They're just in the back rooms because they become burial items at the end of their life.
mm,
And so no one gets to see them, right?
mm.
And so I just try to use all of the multitude of forms and shapes and styles to, as much as I can, to show the variety of our pottery. So, from left to right here, we have a water bottle, then a seed pot, which is like has a little hole in it that you put seeds in when you're gonna go, do garden. We were a very agricultural tribe, so we stored seeds. Another variation of water bottle, and then an effigy of a bear. We did tons of what we call effigy pots of animals, mostly all of the animals that were in our homeland area, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. So black bears, alligator garfish, alligator snapping turtles, other kinds of fish and things like that. So um,
Right.
lots, and we did people and head pots as well. So lots of effigy pieces that kind of represented our environment.
Got it.
Yeah,
Um, I'm just going to say out loud that we're having such a good time talking that we're getting a little bit short on time. So
gotcha.
we're going to go through your
Talking too
slides so
much.
that we can.
Yeah, go
No, it's
fast.
not you. It's that all of us are enjoying the conversation. Absolutely not you, but just wanted to point that out. So there's another view, and then I think I have a better picture of these
Yeah.
two.
So really quickly, the one on the left is like what I consider fully traditional. It's larger than life. Usually they weren't that big, but it's an example of what we call diplomacy ware. So it's what you bring out when you're having distinguished guests. It's fancy, but it's still a utilitarian food style pot to serve in. So it's not a shiny ritual pot. So on the right, it would be an example of a human effigy piece that's burnished, really shiny. So it would be more a ritual style piece. This one here
Mm,
is really talking about food sovereignty and thankfulness for um, being able to grow food, which in this piece is the corn that we inherited from Mesoamerica. Our tribe, Caddos, were pretty closely tied and very, very much influenced from Mesoamerican tribes.
Another connection.
Yes.
Yeah. And then one more traditional pot, and then your sort of
Yeah, it's a
contemporary.
traditional like cooking utilitarian jar, and then this one on the right is a departure into the indigenous futurism movement style pieces that I build, they are basically taking pop art, a lot of times Star Wars, but it's more about the futurism within native art, and making statements with these pieces so that they can speak to the public, to the audience, and not just simply be a vessel, but they tell a story, or they make a statement about something. This one in particular, if anyone's familiar with Star Wars or not, it's an Imperial Scout droid. So this one's titled Scout, which is kind of a derogatory term for natives that were recruited as scouts to hunt down their own people. So it's kind of an abrasive piece. But this one's made using traditional materials for the body, and then very contemporary, um, you know, uh, commercial clay and glazes for the base and the legs there.
Mm.
Yeah.
And with a kind of a silver patina, but it's on clay. So people, I know when I
Yeah.
first saw the
Yeah.
picture, I thought it was a metal base, but it's,
Yeah.
and then this is your
The
diplomacy
traditional piece.
card
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chase.
Yes.
And we can dig in a little bit more on the 7th. So anyone is welcome to join us at that time. Thanks,
Yep.
Chase.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Okay. Cesar is on mute. You want to unmute yourself, Cesar?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So I wasn't sure if you wanted me to put these at the beginning or the end, but these are some great images of you with some of the work that you do in the garden, right?
Yes.
Um, and then some details of you making those. Do you want me to just keep going?
Should I start talking about this a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, if you
Okay.
want to talk about it, and then I just want to make sure we get to your actual pieces in the show, but
Right.
definitely tell us what's happening here. Yeah.
I will be really quick. So this is just for context. I've been doing sculptures and besides the murals, I've been doing a lot of sculptures and nothing like this big, but I think last summer. A friend of mine, my best friend, came to Philadelphia, and I asked him for his help because we need a lot of like force to create this. So I showed him my drawings, and then we got the idea of building this sculpture. And from there, he never like did anything like this, so I started like showing him how to do the cement and rebar and anything. As a matter of fact, most of the stuff that we use to build this that you see there, it was scattered in that abandoned lot. The only thing that we buy was sand and cement, and that's it. Everything else is like there. So we started shaping things and doing it, and it was such a great experience for him because everything was new for him, and also it was great for me because I never did anything like this scale.
Mm.
So it teach me a lot. Again, like you see the possibilities, you imagine something, and the reason that I did this is connected to the clay that I do. Is the It was specifically for this size, so we could use this space for ceremony, like as we call it Aste, or Mexica, or any like Mesoamerican ceremony. We clean the space, make it like sacred around there, and people identify with that right away. It's like the old god, the god of fire, where we tell, and it was amazing. We actually lit some fire on the top.
Mm.
So it was like smoke, and also on the belly, it's like a little hole in the belly, supposed to be like an altar itself. So people was putting candles or incense. So the art that I do in this regard is to put it to use. It's cultural, and it's like it have these Mesoamerican roots. It kind of like helped me to articulate my language, like talk about the things, who I am and where I come from through these three-dimensional things.
Mm. That's so cool.
And this is previous to that. This is like I've been doing little pieces of clay, but most of the time, because I don't have too much time, whatever I do with clay is a luxury. It's like I make the time to do it, and it's like little. The thing on the left is a Papuskowski. It's actually an incense burner. So this one I never put it to use, but the idea is that you put a little piece of charcoal, and then you add incense like copal from the tree, little resin from the tree, and then you burn it, and then you do ceremony. So I read something that it says smoke speak for me. So in a way, it's like when I burn something there, It's my pray or my way to connect with my ancestors, with my, my brothers and a sister who died already, and my wife passed away. When I do this, it's part of a ritual. Like the smoke goes up and it takes my message, my thought, my whatever. So it became like really, really personal. Like the one on the right, this is funny because this clay, I got it because in one of the meetings that we have with the clay studio, and I forgot the name of the artist who delivered the kit and the clay for us to do clay while we are conversing on the meeting. And I end up doing this piece. So it's funny because your clay that later on she pick it up and then I glaze it, whatever. So it's like I started like an instant burner, and I add the elements of the bat. The bat is pollinator for the cactus, so that's how they get the maguey. From the maguey cactus, they get the mezcal and things. So I try to put all this, this information on it, and it's funny because the moment I show it to my daughter, it's like I want it, I want it. And for me, that's my biggest joy. Like when they like something that I do, I mean, it's like it made my day. So I gave it to her. We never use it. I gave it to her, and she keep it like to I don't know to put her little jewelry or whatever. I should have it on the perfect spot. So
No, that's so nice. And then it like you can really see the connection between I mean the big piece too, but these smaller pieces, and then these are the drawings that you started with this summer when you were the guest artist at the Clay Studio.
right, yeah, because I already have the experience of like doing large pieces on cement and other materials, but clay, I never did anything like this big, so I knew it was gonna be a big challenge. The one thing that gave me peace of mind, and I was so relieved, is that you told me that I would have like somebody like Ken or Megan, like helping me, guiding me all the through the whole process. So I shouldn't be worried about technicalities or if I don't know the right temperature because they are there for me. So I truly love that I was like, okay, so I can do anything again. I can do whatever I want. It's fine. And I designed this so you could see the structure, the base is all Mesoamerican.
Mm.
And for a moment, I have the idea of like telling stories. Like the painting part is gonna be more of the story of contemporary issues, like how I deal with communicate with my kids. So I try to. I was thinking about that later on. When I start building all of this, I kind of like change some of the themes around.
Yeah, but you can see that this piece, especially with the base and things, are really, really similar. But yeah, you talked about like pulling back on color and other things. You want to talk a little bit about that shift?
Yeah, I think that in the process when I started building, I realized that somehow this was an opportunity to me, like in a way to go back to my memories, to see how much I remember from my grandmother and how much I remember from the stories of my aunts,
Mm.
and also all these emotional charge that is on my mind when I speak about Mesoamerican issues, my roots, my ancestors, like civilization that were destroyed in some regards because the colonial, the
Mm.
colonization of the country. So I wanted at the moment I say, okay, I can enjoy this money if I just like I keep it simple. I'm gonna keep it in a way that um, color wise it would be something that reminds me of the pieces the way we found them when the archaeologists dig out and they found them there's not really like too much color. Some of those of course they have been well preserved and everything, but I wanted to be as simple as I could, just traces like tiny little washes. Meanwhile, the subject, the sculpture part, I wanted to be very direct with the message. Like I call them braceros, like they use it to burn
Mm.
incense or sometimes just fire. That's why the kind of like some of the paint around the main base is like dark, kind of like emulate charcoal or smoke or whatever to give it that quality of like an ancient piece.
Mm. And um, so these are the three together. Do you want to talk about the titles and
Yeah. So kind of like each of them have their own entity. It's kind of like the personality. And I'm gonna start with the one on the right. Um, Tezcatlipoca. It's like this smoking mirror personality, where it's kind of like a space in the darkness when you can go into yourself and meditate and reflect on you. While in the daylight you are more distracted and it's more about learning and teaching, working, doing things. At nighttime is this entity kind of like create this space for you to meditate, and it's more about reflection. But the motif you see, I'm not talking about the one on the stream on the stream right.
Mhm.
So all these motifs, yeah, I kind of like show who he is. Also, the motif say that this is a big lord, and it represent something important, an important character. And nevertheless, also on the middle of the base, there is this. They look like roots, but also at the same time,
Oh,
that
this.
thought for like they some sort of like a snake. So I was enjoying this so much that I just let my go like feel. So it's like a snake, but also have like rings around the body. But that's kind of talks about how they shed in the skin and they in renewal. So it's part of it's a renewal. It's like burning again. So it's like a new opportunity that we have every day to become a better person, or at least try to be a better person. That's what it is
Mm.
about that. The one in the middle also. It talks about like all these different elements. Kind of makes me think about how much work and effort it goes into these artists, which we never will know their names, but day by day they did this like almost probably on daily basis, and they were masters of this craft, and they create an amazing world around us. And even if some was destroyed, we still can see and get inspiration from them. I wanted to think that when people came to the exhibition, and that was the main feeling, people like recognize these images right away. Also, they kind of like see my own personal language.
Mm.
I don't know what is the next image, but if we talk about the one on the left, yeah, I'm glad that you got this one like close up and things. This one was the third one that I did. I want to thank again Megan and Ken because they got me into like the kind of temperature, like the base. They actually helped me to build the whole base on the bottom to support the lid, which have most of the sculpture part. Um, every single like dentation, everything that I uh, shape, it was for a reason. Like initially, the center character is in a way it's like different entities in ones, but some of the things that you can see right away is the god of corn, because the thing that is holding Chicomecoa in a way also it represents agricultural renewal and have all these elements. Um, the elements on the top that represents paper, and paper was sacred, almost like feathers and cacao beans. It was a, a way to trade things, also to give some high regard to people, and it was expensive to create paper back on Mesoamerican time, and people use it mostly for rituals. They used to write things on paper and then burn it, and with the smoke, again, the message go to the ancestors or to the departed ones. So this third piece is also like for me, it's like some sort of like a memorial. The whole time I was building, I was thinking about my wife and I was thinking about my kids, that if they see this, they would be so proud and they could understand that we I feel that I get inspired by all these memories, and whatever I try to do at this time of my life is try to connect with my community, with the people close to me, and also like if I can bring the message of empowerment to our people who still like artesanos, craft people who do this kind of thing. We have to name them. We have to give them. We have to like put them on the spotlight, and they have to be prized because of the work they do. But this particular piece, you can actually see on the sides there is some writing. It's just like black lines around. Also on the top there is some of that. All the lines, the black lines are glyphs and are symbols.
Oh, here.
In the past, and it had to do with the year 2012 when the big doomsday was gonna come, the end of the war. The Mayans say it, so the world is gonna be destroyed and a new war is gonna born. That's when I started these kind of incensaries, and I forced myself to learn some of the Maya writing, or at least the way we understand how to write on Maya, because apparently they are some of the few people who were able to write. Um, so there are messages there. I kind of like now, instead of smoke or burning things with the glaze, I did these images. There are this particular image on the right is the name of Anna. So the way is Anna, and then there is another message, and then on the left side there are numbers and days, and that's kind of like the the days, the special days where my kids were born, and so on. It's just a way to keep remembering this. So this is like the most personal piece I probably have ever done.
Mm,
Mhm.
that's so great. And I mean, again, like the connection between your two work that Chase has one that is holding corn as a very important symbol, and you mentioned that the corn came from Mesoamerica, and then that's something that you chose to. And of course, you two have not talked before. Like this is just wonderful connections that art brings between people, and really makes me happy. I think that we probably have to move on to say goodbye in a moment, but I just want to go through the rest of these are just close-ups of the ones that you already talked about, and I think that might be the last one. So we don't really have time for questions from the audience, but again, I'll just say, yeah, everyone's welcome to come to the symposium. Then they can ask questions. But do either of you want to kind of finish up with a thought about the future for yourself or for the field of ceramics or for, anything, our world? No, no pressure. Just what do you think about the future, I guess?
Chase, you want to start?
Sure. I'll make it quick. So I kind of wrote three things that I thought were really important, and I put them on notes here, so I'll go through them real quick.
Take your time.
The main thing was um, that I wanted to show that the future for me as a Caddo and Native American is the evolution of our work from our ancestral work into the future. It wouldn't have stayed the same. It wouldn't have stayed stagnant. And so, now we're, creating works that are more sculptural to create conversations and education and statements. So that's the future I see for Caddo art, but also native art is, evolving into the future. Um, and then secondly, one of the really important things about as a Native American is showing that Native American art is fine art. So for so long, Native art was, just relegated to its own little small niche and not accepted as fine art or American art. And I think that's changing. So I really see that as the future of art for Native American work is, as I get into these museums and I show that, these Native American pieces are part of the American art collections and fine art collections and showing, our own people and everyone else that it can even be, internationally recognized Native fine art. And pop art, especially with indigenous futurism pieces, showing that this country's pop art is native art, is pop art, is native art. It's just it just keeps going. And that's hard for a lot of people to swallow, but that's some of the activism that's involved in the work. And then finally, one of the most important things is me carving out a space for not only my daughter but younger generations or the next generations of Native artists coming up and seeing that, where I went 30 years not knowing anything about Caddos having any art, not even our ancestral work. Now it's like we're seeing our ancestral work, but we're also seeing, contemporary Caddo artwork in museums all over the country. So it's creating a space for the next generation of Caddos, but also showing natives that this work can be on the same stage as fine art in the national and international community. It's something that they can do, something they can be strive for, something that gives them a cultural identity, and could even give them a way to contribute. So that's what I think about the future of the clay.
That's so great. And I love that idea of making space. I think that's important in all the arts, and the fact that you got to think about it when your daughter was born, and that was part of what really inspired you is Lovely. So thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for everything that you said today.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Inspiring. How about you, Cesar?
In my future, I see traveling more to back to the land where I was born and grew up. I wanna to go back to my grandparents. They still have a portion of that land with my uncles. Last year I was there and we were planning on building this little station where we can bring back. My plan is to like extend this to some sort of program within my family and neighbors on that particular area. So revitalize that, like show them that even because the needs of life force them to abandon all these traditions and just make their day by other things that have nothing to do with all these stuff that they have, the potential that they have. I wanted to like just go back and be able to light a little bit of fire in a sense that they can start doing their own things. So I want to create this station. I locate places. They were showing me this is black clay and this is the red one. They were showing me this space like they were so excited, and then and it's like a whole other like opening because my aunt was killing these insects on the nopal cactus. I did like don't kill them. They like cochinilla. We made like red pigment out of that. So all this like awakening of how much we have, and we were suppressed in a way because so many factors that today is the day where we can think ahead and plan for start digging into that and just become stronger in that sense. I would say that also I appreciate what happened with me on the Clay Studio, this experience of giving me all the support, all the space, all the resources to be able to be myself and translate some of the other arts that I do into this form that is not new for me, but on this scale and all this help that I got from you, like really motivate me to push myself forward and come up with these pieces. Now I know I can do giant pieces on the entrance of buildings or whatever because I already did this, and I think that if I wish that the clay studio or the any institution in general give this kind of opportunity to other artists or even people that is not considered artists. There is so much potential that I think one way is to expanding the programs where you access most of this particular community and having structures that are well known by that community that they know what they're talking about this media and whatever. And then I think this is going to expand into a larger movement in the city and other places.
Yeah, I thank you. I agree with everything you're saying, and I love that you're using phrases like you want to light the fire and digging into things. Where I love it when people use the terminology of their craft, their art for kind of metaphors. And yeah, I mean, but that's a really important part of our mission at the Clay Studio is we have our free workshops on Saturdays for the neighbors and all kinds of things, but always could do more and always are open to ideas for how to do that. So that's great. And then I'll just say again, Ken Beidler, who's on the call. Thanks, Ken. And Megan T, who like were integral to helping you make that. And Ken just wrote, it was great. Oh, there it is. Hi, Ken. Great working with you, Cesar. Thanks to both of you for sharing your artistic journeys. Lovely. Okay, and thank you from me. I really appreciate it. Thanks to those of you who spent a little extra time with us. This was really inspiring. Can't wait to see you both on December 7th. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.